I was thinking the other day about fire alarms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like when a fire alarm goes off in a building, your first instinct isn't to grab a hammer, climb up on a chair, and just smash the plastic casing to pieces so the noise stops.
Right. That would be a terrible survival strategy. I mean, you don't attack the alarm. You look for the smoke
Exactly.
to try to figure out what the alarm is actually pointing to.
But when it comes to human emotion, and specifically anger, we almost always pull out the hammer. We literally try to smash the alarm.
You really do.
We just tell ourselves to push it down, and we tell each other to, just stop being angry. But today, we are putting the hammer away, and we're looking for the fire.
I love that.
We are jumping into a truly fascinating deep dive today. We're unpacking a guided workbook called the Anger Management Booklet, which was published by MySafeTherapy.
It is such a rich document.
It really is.
Oh.
And I want to set the stage right out of the gate for you listening. The goal of our time today is not to teach you how to become like an emotionless robot.
Right, because learning to never get angry again is just biologically impossible.
Exactly. Instead, our mission is to decode the hidden mechanics of a deeply misunderstood human emotion. And we want to use that knowledge as an absolute shortcut to self-awareness.
Which is such a vital reframing, I think, because at its core, the text reminds us that anger is simply one of the 6 basic human emotions.
Yeah.
It is a highly effective, evolutionarily designed biological signal.
So it's not inherently bad.
Not at all. When you feel anger, your body is essentially sending an alert that something you deeply value is being threatened or violated or is just going unmet.
Right.
The emotion itself is completely neutral. The destruction only happens in how we wield it.
And to wield it better, we have to actually understand the machinery driving it.
Absolutely.
So before we can talk about managing anger, we need to look at what happens inside the body when that alarm bell rings. Like, what is the actual physical mechanism of an anger response?
Well, it starts as a profound physiological shift.
Yeah.
And it's all centered around the fight or flight response. The booklet details how, when anger is triggered, your nervous system essentially decides you are in physical danger.
Even if the trigger is just like an annoying email from your boss.
Exactly. Your body doesn't know the difference. So your heart rate spikes to pump more oxygen. Adrenaline and noradrenaline just flood your bloodstream.
Wow.
And your muscles literally tense up to prepare for physical combat. But the most critical change happens in the brain architecture itself.
You're talking about the amygdala hijack.
Yes, the classic amygdala hijack. So your rational, logical thinking center, which is the prefrontal cortex.
The part that handles impulse control, right?
Right, the part that evaluates consequences. That part is essentially bypassed. The amygdala, which is your primitive emotional processing center, just takes complete control of the wheel.
So your brain literally shuts down the circuits required for logic, just to conserve energy for a physical fight.
Yes. You are operating from a purely primal reactive state.
Man, that explains so much. It explains why we say or do things in the heat of an argument that seem completely baffling to us an hour later.
Right, because the rational part of your brain simply wasn't online to filter the action. It was shut off.
And it's not like we just jump from 0 to a full amygdala hijack instantly, right?
No, not usually, though it can definitely feel that way. The text actually maps out an entire anger spectrum.
Okay, what does that look like?
It begins at mild irritation, just a slight friction in your day. Someone cuts you off in traffic.
Yeah, just an annoyance.
Right. But if the stressor continues, it moves into frustration, which usually happens when a specific goal is blocked.
Okay.
And if that is left unaddressed, it calcifies into resentment, which is like a lingering bitterness.
I know that feeling.
We all do.
Yeah.
And finally, if the threat persists, it escalates to full-blown anger and uncontrollable rage where your judgment is entirely clouded.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the workbook introduces a concept here that, honestly, it completely changes how you view every argument you've ever had.
It really flips the script.
It argues that anger is almost always a secondary emotion. Like anger is just the surface layer.
Yes.
It is a loud, aggressive outlet that we use to express deeper, heavier primary emotions that feel way too vulnerable to show the world.
Things like fear, sadness, anxiety.
Exactly. Or shame.
Yeah.
Or just a profound sense of helplessness. I've been thinking about it like this, and tell me if this makes sense.
Sure.
Anger acts like an aggressive bodyguard for our more vulnerable feelings.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Like if you're secretly terrified that you are underperforming and you might lose your job, It feels much safer to have your bodyguard yell at a coworker over a typo rather than to sit at your desk and admit you feel completely inadequate and scared.
What's fascinating here is the societal context behind why we employ that bodyguard in the first place.
What do you mean?
Like, why is anger our default defense mechanism? The text explains that in many cultures, workplaces, and family systems, anger is actually rewarded.
Really, rewarded.
Well, or at least tolerated much more than vulnerability is. Think about it. Sadness feels passive. Helplessness feels intensely uncomfortable for people to witness.
Right, yeah. People don't know what to do with sadness.
Exactly, but anger. Anger creates a false illusion of agency. It feels active. It feels powerful.
So we use it as a behavioral shield against the painful truth of our own insecurities.
Precisely.
The problem is, when you let a hyper-aggressive bodyguard drive the car, he's going to crash it eventually.
Every single time.
Let's look at the blast radius of this defensive posture. And the most obvious place this plays out is where we spend most of our waking hours.
The workplace.
Yeah, the workplace. It is a massive trigger zone.
Oh, it's the perfect storm. You have competing egos, you have rigid hierarchies, looming deadlines.
And just a constant fear of failure.
Right. It's a fertile ground for the primary emotion of fear, which very quickly morphs into the secondary emotion of anger.
And the text outlines how unmanaged anger mutates in these professional settings, right? Because we tend to picture anger at work as someone, like, screaming in a conference room.
Which happens, but it's rare. Usually it takes much more insidious forms, like micromanaging.
Yeah, I hadn't really considered micromanaging as a form of anger, but mechanically it makes perfect sense.
It does.
If your primary emotion is a frantic fear of losing control over a project's outcome, your anger steps in to force control onto everyone else.
Exactly. The manager isn't necessarily yelling, but their behavior is driven by a hostile need to eliminate variables.
Which means suffocating their team.
Right. The booklet also highlights passive aggression as a major manifestation of workplace anger.
Oh, the absolute worst.
This looks like deliberate delays on shared tasks, masking insults as sarcasm or just weaponized incompetence.
Like when you ask a colleague for a vital piece of information and they suddenly take 3 days to reply to a simple question.
Or they hit reply all with a subtly undermining comment.
Yes, it's all anger. And the cost to the individual doing it is catastrophic. You lose your professional reputation, you fracture your team's psychological safety.
And leadership ultimately sidelines you because you are perceived as toxic.
But as high as that professional cost is, the personal cost is usually worse.
It's often devastating. The tragic irony explored in the workbook is that we actually reserve the most unmanaged, raw forms of our anger for the people we feel safest with.
Our intimate partners, our kids, our closest friends.
Exactly.
Because the bodyguard knows your spouse is legally and emotionally bound to you. They won't just fire you on the spot like a boss would.
Right, so they bear the heaviest burden. To help identify these patterns, the workbook actually categorizes intimate relationship anger into distinct archetypes.
Okay, walk us through those.
First, you have the exploder. This is the classic presentation. They use loud outbursts, physical intimidation, and unpredictable yelling.
Basically to scare their partner into submission and just shut down the conversation.
Exactly. Then there's the scorekeeper.
Oh man, the scorekeeper is brutal.
It really is.
This is the person who weaponizes the past. Like you're arguing about who forgot to pick up the groceries, and suddenly they bring up the fact that you were insensitive at a family dinner 3 years ago.
Right. They never truly forgive anything. They just archive your mistakes as ammunition for the next battle.
It's an attempt to win the conflict by burying the other person in past guilt.
Yes. And then you have the deflector, who absolutely refuses to sit with the discomfort of accountability.
Okay, what does that look like?
No matter what they did, they instantly flip the script, so the conflict is somehow the other person's fault.
I want to pause on the archetypes for a second, because the text also details 2 others, and I had some questions about them.
Sure, which ones?
The withholder and the imploder. I kind of struggle with categorizing these as anger.
Why is that?
Well, if someone is just giving their partner the silent treatment, or emotionally withdrawing, shutting the bedroom door, and just bottling things up, is that really anger?
Yes, absolutely.
Mechanically, it just feels more like exhaustion or just giving up on the fight.
It is absolutely a form of anger, and understanding why is really critical. Withholding is passive anger.
Okay.
Think about the goal of the emotion. It's a defensive mechanism meant to protect the self and neutralize a perceived threat.
Right.
By emotionally starving the other person, the withholder regains control. It is a deliberate way of punishing a partner through distance.
Wow. So the silence is literally the weapon.
Yes. And while it doesn't involve broken dishes or screaming, the psychological damage is profound.
Because it completely erodes intimacy.
It does. It forces your partner to constantly walk on eggshells, trying to decode your silence.
And perhaps most damaging, if there are children in the home, it models a highly dysfunctional conflict resolution style.
They learn that when a relationship hits friction, you just freeze people out and withhold love until they comply.
The blast radius is just everywhere. It hits your career trajectory, it fractures your marriage, it teaches your kids to emotionally withdraw.
Which is everything.
But we also need to talk about the internal blast radius. What is actually happening to the physical body when we rely on this toxic bodyguard every day?
Well, we established the fight or flight biology earlier. Right?
Yeah.
Imagine driving your car on the highway and you deliberately leave it in second gear the whole time.
Well, that sounds expensive.
Right. The engine is screaming, the RPMs are in the red zone, and the parts are degrading at an accelerated rate.
That is your cardiovascular system on chronic anger.
Precisely. Sustained anger keeps your body flooded with cortisol. It contributes to chronic high blood pressure, weakened immune response.
Tension headaches, severe digestive issues.
Yes. You are forcing your body to live in a state of perpetual combat.
And that physical toll triggers a massive psychological toll. The booklet describes an incredibly painful internal loop called the anger-shame cycle.
This is a really tough one to break.
Let me see if I can explain how it works. So an outburst occurs. You snap at your partner over something trivial.
Okay.
A few minutes later, your prefrontal cortex boots back up. Logic returns.
Right, the hijack ends.
Yeah, you realize what you did, and you feel this crushing wave of guilt, self-criticism, and deep shame. But remember, shame is one of those primary, vulnerable emotions we cannot tolerate feeling.
Right, it's exactly what the bodyguard is supposed to protect us from.
Exactly. So the cycle restarts. To avoid the crushing weight of the shame, the subconscious mind deploys the bodyguard again.
You suppress the guilt.
Yes, you push the shame down
Yeah.
and look for a reason to be angry again to justify your initial outburst. You think, well, if they just listened to me the first time, I wouldn't have had to yell.
Wow. So what does this all mean for the person stuck in the loop?
Well, it means there's a cruel biological trap waiting for you. Because you are stuck in this loop, eventually someone who cares about you is going to sit you down and try to give you feedback.
That makes sense.
They'll say your temper is hurting this family, or your frustration is hurting the team. And the millisecond they say that, your biology perceives their feedback as a literal threat.
Because it challenges your self-image.
Exactly. And it directly pokes the exact underlying shame that caused your anger in the first place. You instantly pull the bodyguard out to attack the person trying to help you.
This raises an important question, though. How do we bypass that trap?
Yeah.
If feedback is necessary for growth, but inherently triggering to our biology, how do you receive it without exploding?
Right.
The text offers a much healthier, conscious feedback model. Step 1 is simply to pause.
Just,
Yes. Your body is flooding with adrenaline, telling you this conversation is an emergency. You have to intellectually override that and recognize it is not a lion, it's just a conversation.
okay, that's step 1. What's step 2?
Step 2 is to actively listen for the care behind the words. People generally avoid confrontation.
Oh, totally. It's uncomfortable.
Right. So if someone is taking the risk to offer painful feedback, it usually means they deeply care about the relationship and want it to survive.
And step 3 is the hardest part. You have to deliberately separate the message from the delivery.
This is crucial.
Let's say your boss gives you constructive criticism, but they do it in a highly condescending way. Your instinct is to get angry at their arrogance.
Which is a natural reaction.
Right. But if you strip away their poor delivery, the underlying data about your work performance might still be 100% accurate. You have to mine for the truth, even if the packaging is terrible.
Which requires immense emotional maturity. But it also forces us to look in the mirror.
What do you mean by that?
Because if we expect others to separate the message from the delivery when they speak to us, we have to recognize how our own delivery is sabotaging our communication when we are the ones speaking.
Yes. Oh, I love that. If you want to stop the blast radius in your own life, you have to look at how you literally sound.
Exactly.
The booklet brings up these wild statistics regarding interpersonal communication. When you're speaking to someone, the actual words you use, your logical argument, only account for 7% of the message they receive.
Just 7%. It's hard to believe.
The remaining 93% is entirely based on your delivery. 55% is your body language, and 38% is your tone of voice.
And the text breaks this vocal delivery down into three distinct dimensions: tone, voice, and pitch.
Okay, define those for us.
Tone is the emotional quality. So is it warm and inviting, or is it sharp, clipped, and hostile?
Got it.
Voice refers to volume and assertiveness. Are you speaking so loudly you are intimidating the room, or so softly that it forces people to lean in? Which, by the way, is a subtle power play.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
And then there's pitch, which is the actual frequency of the sound. When we get angry, our vocal cords involuntarily tighten. This causes our pitch to naturally rise.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that 93% rule, you could have a completely valid point in an argument.
Right.
You could be 100% logically, factually correct.
Right.
But if your vocal cords tighten, your pitch goes up, and your tone gets sharp, the listener's brain literally stops processing your vocabulary.
Their amygdala senses a threat.
Yes. And they stop listening to the content of your argument to start defending themselves against the emotional threat of your delivery.
So you sound out of control, and they lose all trust in what you're saying.
The logic of your argument is completely drowned out by the hostility of your biology.
But there is a highly actionable mechanical trick here in the text. You can reverse engineer this process.
Really? How?
By consciously choosing to lower your pitch and speak slightly slower, you don't just sound calmer to your partner or coworker.
What else does it?
The act of speaking in a low controlled register actually signals your vagus nerve that you are safe, tricking your own nervous system into feeling calmer.
It is a literal biohack for your own anger. Just lower your voice and your heart rate follows.
It's that simple, mechanically speaking.
Okay, so we've mapped out the amygdala hijack. We've identified the relationship archetypes. We know the bodyguard is masking our shame. And we've learned how our tightening vocal cords betray us.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. Now we need the toolbox. What are the concrete strategies you can deploy to short-circuit this entire biological sequence before the bodyguard takes over the room?
The booklet provides several conscious strategies for behavioral change. The first is a highly practical acronym, the S-Stop-P technique, S-T-O-P.
Okay, break that down for us.
S stands for stop. The moment you feel the physical signs of anger, you completely halt whatever you were doing or saying.
So do not send the email.
Do not finish the sentence. Just stop.
What's the T?
T stands for take a breath. One slow, deep inhalation from the diaphragm. This isn't just symbolic. Deep breathing physically activates your parasympathetic nervous system, acting as a brake pedal against the adrenaline.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, O.
O stands for observe. You mentally step back, notice the tension in your jaw or chest, and name the emotion, like, I am feeling afraid right now.
And finally, the P.
P stands for perceive mindfully. Now that the prefrontal cortex has a moment to catch up, you choose a response rather than reacting on autopilot.
And reason that S-Stop-P technique works so well is actually rooted in some fascinating neuroscience.
Yes, the text mentions some really interesting research here.
The booklet brings up Dr. Jill Boltather's 90-second rule. Through her research, she discovered that the entire chemical lifespan of an emotion takes exactly 90 seconds.
From start to finish.
Yes, from the initial trigger to the release of adrenaline into the bloodstream to the body completely flushing those chemicals out. 90 seconds.
It is a profound realization when you truly grasp it. The actual biological chemical grip of an emotion only lasts a minute and a half.
I love thinking about this like surfing. The chemical process of anger is like a physiological wave.
Okay, a wave.
A wave of adrenaline hits you, it peaks, and it washes away in 90 seconds. If you are still furious 10 minutes later, it is not because of that initial chemical wave.
Why is it then?
It is because you consciously chose to paddle back out and catch the wave again by ruminating on the thought.
Ah.
You replay the insult in your head, which tells your brain to dump another 90 seconds worth of chemicals into your blood.
So you are constantly re-triggering your own biology.
Exactly.
To stop paddling back out into those waves, the text recommends a tool called cognitive reframing.
How does that work?
You actively intercept and change how you interpret the situation. Instead of defaulting to a malicious narrative like thinking, my coworker left me off that calendar invite on purpose to undermine my authority.
Which is the immediate thought we all have.
Right. You force a reframe. You tell yourself, they are probably overwhelmed and made a careless clerical error.
Which feels a little naive, no?
It might feel that way, but you aren't being naive. You are just pausing your body's threat response so you can address the missing invite rationally without the bodyguard.
That makes sense. The workbook also heavily emphasizes physical release. Because anger is an active physical preparation for combat. It literally lives in the body.
Right, you have all that adrenaline built up.
You have to metabolize those stress hormones. If you are angry, sitting in a chair stewing is the absolute worst thing you can do.
So what should you do?
Go for a brisk walk, do some yoga, do 10 push-ups. They also recommend doing a body scan exercise to catch the physical tension before the wave even peaks.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, if you notice your jaw clenching, your shoulders rising to your ears, or your chest tightening, that is your early warning system.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text makes it very clear that simply listening to us talk about these strategies will not change your life.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Intellectual understanding is not behavioral change. Change requires a committed, deliberate plan.
So what's the plan?
The workbook ends by asking the reader to make a 30-day commitment to practicing these tools.
30 days. Okay.
The goal isn't perfection. You will have days where the bodyguard wins and you snap.
We're human.
Exactly. The goal is to use repetition to literally rewire your brain's neural pathways over time so that the pause becomes your new default.
It's about building a fundamentally different relationship with your own biology.
Exactly.
So to recap the incredible insights we've uncovered today, anger is not an evil force. It is a healthy biological signal.
Right.
But it is almost always a secondary mask for deep vulnerability.
Right.
It is a bodyguard protecting your fears, your sadness, or your shame.
That's the core of it.
But if you let that bodyguard run wild and dictate your tone, your pitch, and your behaviors, it will cost you your professional credibility and your most intimate relationships.
But the phenomenal news is that you have the power to consciously ride out that 90-second chemical wave.
Yes.
And every single time you choose to use the STOP technique, every time you take a breath instead of firing off that sarcastic reply, you are doing incredibly brave work.
I love that phrasing, brave work.
You are actively reclaiming control of your prefrontal cortex.
Well, we're going to leave you today with a final, lingering thought to explore on your own.
This is a good one to think about.
Think about the last thing that reliably makes you angry. Maybe it's a specific coworker who always seems to undermine you, or a recurring argument you have with your partner about household chores.
Or even just sitting completely helpless in gridlock traffic on your commute.
Exactly. If anger is just an aggressive bodyguard, what is the exact vulnerability that your anger is trying to protect in that specific moment?
Are you secretly afraid of irrelevance?
Are you terrified of losing control over your life? Find what the bodyguard is hiding. Once you do, you might just find your peace.